Did you know there are 3 ways to propagate plants? Josh here. I've been growing fruit trees in the ground for 10 years, and I've got hundreds planted. And a lot of those are ones that I actually grew from other plants that I already had. And you can do this too by learning these 3 simple methods to propagate plants from other plants. All right, you ready? So, number 1, and this is a pretty easy method. A lot of growers, especially commercial growers, use this method, and that's propagation through cuttings. So, you can take what's called a hardwood cutting or a softwood cutting. Now, this fig here, I've actually grafted probably 20 plants from this black violette fig. Now, I usually do this in the winter and then root them indoors, but you can also do it outdoors during the summer. And I would take that and you want to do something, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches in length with at least 3 nodes and put that in because those nodes are where the roots are going to form out of. Now, a lot of times with rooted cuttings, especially for figs and other types, you want to defoliate because what's going to happen is those leaves are going to fall off unless you've got some sort of high humidity environment. So that's a very specialized case, and that's what commercial growers do. But from a home environment, I like to defoliate the leaves or take it in the winter when it's already defoliated because the leaves have fallen off. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that cutting and you're going to put it in a moist environment where it's going to grow roots but not rot. So that's a very specialized setup. So what I normally do when I'm rooting cuttings is I will take some parafilm and sort of encapsulate the top part to protect it and keep that humidity in the top part. And then the bottom part I'll put into the soil. Now, you can also use rooting hormone. Figs root so easily that a lot of times people don't even use rooting hormone when they propagate them, but I might do that just to increase the percentage of success. So last year, I think around winter, I propagated, I don't know, 20 or 30 figs, and I got about 60 to 70% success, but I wasn't using some specialized medium. I was just putting them in potting soil. And one of the things with rooting cuttings is you want a soil that doesn't hold too much moisture. So some people use soils like sand. They'll mix in a lot of perlite, something that's got a lot of high draining medium because it's really easy for those cuttings under the soil to rot if you're not careful. And you don't want to overwater them either. So those are some tips on rooting cuttings. Let's move to number 2. All right, method number 2 is called ground layering. And ground layering is where you would take this limb, you would probably a lower limb. There's some lower limbs on here that are a little bit more suitable, but a limb that's low to the ground already, and you would put some sort of brick or a rock or something over this limb to weight it down along the ground. And when you do that, now keep in mind, plants naturally want to form roots when they're touching the ground. So you want to cover that with some soil, maybe some mulch, weight it down, and it's naturally going to form roots wherever those nodes are that we talked about underneath of that mound of soil. And so you can do that. And a lot of times I do layering, ground layering. We'll talk about air layering here in a second. I do ground layering in the summer because you've already got a lot of that new growth out of the way. You've still got time before the end of the season for those roots to form. Anyway, so you're going to cover this up with some soil. You're going to weight it down so it doesn't just pop back out of the ground. And then it's going to naturally form those roots. And then after 2 to 3 months, especially with figs, because they're really fast, then you're going to go in and you're going to cut off the branch beyond that point back to the mother plant, and roots will have formed. And at that point, you can transplant it and move that into a pot. You might want to check out those roots first just to make sure that they're really well formed. And again, this is called ground layering. It's very easy, very popular way to propagate plants when you just want to do a few where you've already got some low-lying plants. It works really well with bushy fruiting bushes, which I guess that sort of makes sense. It's in the name. Anyway, all right, let's jump into number 3. So method number 3 is called air layering. So just like ground layering, it uses the same concept, but it happens in the air. So what you're going to do with air layering is you're going to take your fig, you're going to get some sort of water bottle or plastic, or even people use saran wrap, anything that's going to capture moisture and humidity and lock it in together into some sort of casing. So I use just regular old water bottles. I'll use a 16-ounce water bottle. I'll cut a hole in the bottom, cut on the top, cut a strip along the side, and I'll fill it with some sort of medium. I've done soil, I've done sphagnum moss, I've done different types of medium. The key is it needs to retain some amount of moisture and not dry out too quickly. So you're going to encapsulate that. But before you do that, you're going to want to strip a 1-inch ring of the cambium layer, the bark around the tree, and that's going to help promote root growth. So some people do this. You don't have to do it, but that's what I do. And then you can also use rooting hormone with that. Again, that just helps with the percentage of success. So you're going to encapsulate that with a water bottle. And then here's the key. I usually use some sort of aluminum foil to go around the outside of the water bottle. And the reason for this is if you use a water bottle, it's going to heat up from the sun and it's going to sort of cook inside there and it's going to dry out a lot faster. So if you encapsulate the water bottle with some aluminum foil, it's actually going to reflect that light back and keep it cooler by keeping it shadier. Plus, it's a water bottle, so it's already capturing a lot of that moisture in there. All right, then the nice part about it being a water bottle is you can take that foil off. You can check to make sure the roots have formed. That's one of the pros of using something you can see through. And once those roots have properly formed inside that container, it takes about 2 to 3 months, then you can go back and cut below the plant, carefully remove the container, and take it and pop it into a new potting soil inside of a probably 1-gallon pot would be my recommendation for this size. But I've seen people root entire branches this way and put it into a 3-gallon pot. So it just depends. I mean, you could use milk jugs if you wanted to. The key is that you have to keep the soil medium moist. If it dries out, those roots are going to die. And you want to keep it shaded, which helps keep that moisture locked in. All right, so those are the 3 methods that I've used to propagate plants to grow lots more fruit trees that I've planted back into the ground. In fact, I think I've got, probably 20 different plants now that I've grown from other plants that I have on the same property. All right, if you want to learn more about fruit trees, make sure you follow along with this challenge that we're in. I'm teaching everything about home orchards, and make sure you sign up for the emails if you're just watching this off YouTube, because those emails have additional information that you're not going to get in just the videos. All right, I'll see you in the next training.